This is where we stopped on the chi-square calculation. So we want to continue. Okay. Now we were able to get the totals for the observed values. The next thing we need to do is to get our expected values. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, before we get into the expected values, let's understand how the formula is going to be so that after the expected values, we should be able to get to the next table and know what to do exactly and not have doubts. So this is the formula for the chi-square, estimating the chi-square value. So I'm going to leave it here so that we'll be looking at it whilst we go ahead to um, get the other aspects of the tables. So what I'm going to do is to copy this table as it is to another location just right here. So I just copied it and pasted it here. But then I do not need all of these values. I don't need them. I just needed the table structure to look like the same thing here. So instead of typing, let me just go ahead to copy and paste, remove what I don't need, and leave it empty. Now we can populate it. Now, how do we get expected values? We get the expected values, let's say for example, the first cell here, that is male managers. How do we get the expected value here? We multiply the row total by the column total corresponding to the cell that you are interested in. Then you divide that product by the total um, sum, okay, of all the values in the table. That is how we get the expected values. So for the first one, let's see how we're going to get that. Now I'm going to use again the formulas here to demonstrate. So once it's a formula, I have to start with an equal sign. So I press my equal to, then I select the cell, the row total. That is the only cell I'm going to select. And I multiply the star on top of the number 8 key, shift, and you press that one in case you are doubting or you are not familiar with the keyboard. That is how you get it. So all the characters that are on top and small, those ones, you press your shift key to get them. Okay. All right. Even though in some keyboards there is a num lock or something that you press and you can't, whilst you are typing, only the upper characters are appearing. Anyway, that is not the purpose for this video. So let's stick to why we are here. So I've gotten my row total here. I'm now going to go to the column total. Once I have my multiplication sign there, I come to click the column total corresponding to managers. So these two divided by the total will give me the expected for male managers. That is where the 453 value is. So I'm going to now divide it by the total here and press my enter key. So this is the expected value for the cell where we have 453 male managers. Now, Excel is funny, interesting, and confusing all this at the same time. Now, right now, we if you remember when we were dealing with the totals, when we had this, we just had to come to the lower right corner and then click that one, hold the left button and move along to get whatever we need. But here, see what I am getting. It doesn't make sense. I should have gotten the same thing. Okay, so let's examine this one again. Click inside the formula bar and you can see the cells that are involved in the calculation. Let's go to the next one and click inside the formula. Now you can see the cells that are involved in this calculation. So obviously that is not what we are looking for. So the next cell, that is supervisory, male that are supervisory, we expected 1432 multiplied by the 897, then we divide by the 2681, but not an empty cell. Okay, So we're going to undo what we have done and then see how we can manage to let Excel understand that move this cell but don't move, sorry, move this row but don't move this column, or move this column, do not move along with this column. Okay, now the dollar sign on your keyboard is something that helps us to do this. I'm going to click inside the formula bar to do some editing. So you can see from here that this is the first one, F4. I am going to put a dollar sign before the F. I want you to observe something. So dollar sign before the F. I would explain them afterwards. But then the total here, I do not want it to shift in any way. So I'm going to put a dollar sign before the letter F and another dollar sign after the letter F, just before the number, and press my enter key. So right now I'm going to do the same thing as I did before, and I was getting errors. So I'm going to pull this one to this point, and you can see I have numbers. They are not more characters that we didn't understand. So click on this, the formula bar corresponding to this, and you can see that it is exactly what we wanted to happen. Okay, so what we did in the formula was to say, okay, the F4 that we were talking about, I am going to move along that row, but I do not want that cell to be moving. I want the cell to be stable. If we are going to move along the column, if, let's say for example, I move along like downwards, it means that I have actually moved this one. So it allows me to move along the same column, but it doesn't allow me to move along the same row. That is what it means. So if you wanted it not to move along the row to, sorry, the column to, I would have to move the dollar sign from the beginning and put it in the middle. So that way it will not move along the column, but it will move along the row. So let's go to the second one. So what I can do here, I can just copy this and paste here, the formula here, and do the editing. Okay, so you can see the movement here. So this has moved, this has moved, this is still the same thing. So this is the only one I need to push back here. So it's supposed to be C6 and not C7. So I go into the formula and then change that to 6, and all is set. So I can go ahead and then move along, and I am sure I have done everything right. And this is what you call the expected values. Now we need the totals here, the column and the row totals, just as we did in the first place. Okay, I'm going to highlight these for us to see. This is what we did in the first video. To get the totals, we have to use equal sign, and or we select the whole row, the whole column, plus an additional one where we want the total to be. Here I'm going to show you another one which is much simpler. Okay, so all I need to do is I want the totals to come all the way, all of these cells. Let me do the selection here. Let me use the same color to color them here. All right, so I want the answers to come to the where I have highlighted them yellow. So all I need to do now is to select the expected values, including the highlighted cells. Those I colored yellow. That's all I need to do. Then on my keyboard, I'm going to press the Alt key plus the equal sign. The equal is where you have the equal and the plus on the same key. So press the and hold the Alt key and press the equal sign. Then you have the calculation done for you all at once. Now let's examine them. Let's examine the first one. Click inside the formula bar and you can see that yes, it is using the same formula as we did before. Now as a check for your chi-square analysis using this manual process, if all your totals are not the same, in both the expected and the observed tables, then you know you have done something wrong somewhere, so you will have to check again. So the totals for the observed and the totals for the expected, each row, each column should be the same. If it is not the case, you will have to check your calculations again in the table, or maybe you have in the process of trying to apply the formula to the rest of the cells, you have done something wrong somewhere. Okay, so you need to check that and make sure it is right. Now, all along, I just pasted this formula here and we haven't spoken about it. Now it's time for us to use it. We have the observed. The observed is what you have here as O, and E is the expected. So we are going to use these two tables to now construct this particular side of the formula. That is the O minus E all over E squared, O minus E all squared divided by the E for each of them. They are six. There are six of them. So again, I'm going to do some copying and pasting. This time I am not interested in the totals. So I only put that here, copy paste this, and remove these guys here. So right now I am now going to find the difference between the observed and the expected. Okay, so I'm going to do them one at a time so that you can see, but all of them on in the same table here. First, I'm going to have the first cell, observed cell, minus the first expected cell. So I say equals to this cell here, that is a 453, minus, I click on the cell here I4 and press my enter key to get an answer. So 26, 453 minus 426.235 will give me this long figure. Okay, so sometimes I want to keep my how do I call it, the decimal places shorter, so I make it 2. It depends on the number of decimal places that you want. Keep it the way you want it. Okay, all right, so I'm not going to make changes to this, even though you can make changes where you have the number in your home ribbon. So this section is where you control the number of decimal places, so you can increase or decrease using these two buttons here. But as I said, I'm just going to leave the default decimal places as they are. Now in this table, I can pull this formula to apply without a problem, because this and this, they are almost along the same pattern. So as you are moving, it's going to be relative, and the tables are structured in the same way. So I shouldn't expect to have a problem if I decide that, okay, I'm not going to check. Let me just pull it down here and then pull it along to cover here. So this, I should be sure that it is correct. But then let's confirm. Again, let's come here and click here. And you can see we having this last one, auxiliary, observed minus auxiliary expected. That is correct. Let's confirm one last one. Supervisory female, that is observed, and here we have supervisory female expected. So our calculation is right. Okay, now I'm going to add the square now in the same place. So I add the square by putting what I have done in bracket, and on top of the number 6 I press the shift and the number 6 to get that um, upside down, greater than or less than. Okay, so just make it like that. Then I put my 2 there, press my enter key, and the number has changed. Again, if I'm going to pull them, I get the same answer. Okay, you could have done all this before you come to the last part. I'm just showing you so that you see how things are done. Okay, so could have just done one after that, then I will apply it through. The last thing I will do here is to divide this by the expected, that is the one down here. So I'm going to go up, click in the same first cell, go up again, and put everything I have here in bracket before I do the division. Okay, so you can see that everything is inside the bracket. Then I can now say divide by expected, and the expected, I come to click on this one right here, press my enter, and I have my answer there. So I can now pull it along and then pull it down this way, and everything is set. So this is how we get the um, parameters in the formulas estimated. Now it's left with the last but not the least one, that is a sigma here. We need to sum all these ones. So again, we can just put something here and call it summation or sum equals to, then we come to this point and say equal sum. I want to add everything here. So it doesn't matter whether it's a row or a column, as long as you give it the array of numbers that you want to perform the sum operation on. Then we press our enter key. We have this as our chi-square value. So this is what you could have done in order to come up with your answer as a chi-square.